Hello, guys, and welcome back to Bright Founders Talk from Temi, an international software development company that designs, builds, and delivers software for sustainable businesses and promising startups. Today, guys, we've got with us Greg Reed from Places of People, the Group Chief Executive. Greg, hello, how are you?
Hi, very good. Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Thank you for coming on. Greg, I want to get straight into it. So before we get into the questions, what I want you to do is just introduce to me Places for People and what you're doing there as well, because I know you're relatively new, a couple of years you've been working there now. Tell me a little bit about Places for People and what is your role? What does it entail?
Well, Places for People is the UK's leading social enterprise. So we are primarily what would be considered a property group that focuses on affordable housing with about 10 billion in assets, 231,000 homes, 11,000 employees. We also have a leisure business to sort of promote well-being in the community, which has about 30 million visits a year. We also do investment funds that have a social purpose to them. So we can go into that later if you want. And then, we do a lot of construction and developing. So we're one of the largest regeneration companies in the UK. And we're also one of the top 20 construction of houses in the UK.
Tell me what is there's a lot that goes on there. Obviously there's a lot of different kind of avenues which we can work at in this podcast today as well, but what is the kind of the area you enjoy the most at Places of People from what you're doing? What kind of is it the leisure, is it the building, is it the constructing? What part do you enjoy the most and why?
Well, I think if you put all those things together, you have the opportunity to create a thriving community. So in addition to all those pieces, we also have a foundation which gets people into work, fosters education and inclusion. And so I think working across the sort of communities that we manage, the communities that we build, and then helping those communities thrive. That's what I like. I think there's a lot of companies that might say they're into community, but I think we have the broadest platform and all of the pieces to really try and make it happen. That doesn't mean it's perfect and we always get it right. It's very difficult, but we're giving it a go anyway.
Yeah, exactly. That's all you can do, definitely. And you're doing very well. I mean, it's huge business, huge company. Tell me again, how many employees did you say you've got?
11,000.
11,000. Well, okay, we'll go into that a little bit more when we talk about the team.
We're slightly past startup phase.
Yeah, absolutely. Right, before we get started with some of the more specific questions which I've got for you, I want to talk about kind of you and your journey a little bit more specifically. I'm going to give you a sentence and I basically just want you to finish the sentence. For example, one of the sentences, in 2022, I didn't know that, but now I do. What was yours in 2022? What didn't you know, Greg?
Well, I think mine would be a work sort of related item. So I didn't know the world would change so much, and due to I guess the conflict in Ukraine maybe kicking a lot of it off, but we would face sort of unprecedented inflation and a really tight job market here, which also makes things difficult for us and in what we do. And housing, is more necessary than ever. And I think going into the year, there's a bit of a false sense of security that you kind of knew exactly what you were doing, but then we faced quite a few challenges.
Okay, interesting. We'll go into that again a little bit later. When I started out, I believed that, but now I don't.
Well, I think there's two things I'll say about that one. When I started out as a young person and I, finished my formal education, I thought that, sort of the most important thing was, how clever you were or how hard you worked. And I really didn't appreciate, what you gained through experience in life. And I've come to appreciate that as I've gotten older and I sort of face issues and it's very calm and easy for me because I think, well, I saw this 10 years ago and, here's a way we can look at this. And then I think when I started out to be group CEO of Places for People with, the housing shortage that exists in the UK, what I thought was if a big company like ours, turned up at a place and was willing to invest billions in building homes, that people would be like, great, let's help. But it's actually very, very difficult. Local communities don't really appreciate new things being built in their community. They want homes in the UK, they just don't want them near them. And so it's a real challenge, and we have a substantial development, which hopefully will finally get the final green light at the end of this month. But the planning and expenses have been going on since 2014.
Oh,
So,
wow.
these things take a very long time. Sure.
Okay. 2023, obviously it's only February so far, midway through Feb. What has 2023 not had enough of for you yet?
Well, I would say time, basically. So,
Yeah.
I mean, I think, as a chief exec with a big business and a lot of people counting on us, I'm been proven right to be optimistic about a few things.
Hmm.
Energy prices. I think in the UK, interest rates will stabilize. And that will help us. And so I think, but we haven't really seen enough to really bank on that. So you have to be cautious on a business like ours with, where you extend yourself out to, just in case things don't go the way that, got very smart people predicting these things. But you can't bank on that till it happens. So I think it's going to be an interesting year.
Interesting. And the future for Places for People. What is the future?
I think we, as a group, we are really focused on creating thriving communities. And so for us, that's, the biggest part of the future. We're really thinking about, with so many people working for us, if we create apprenticeship academies and things like that for our own internal uses, can we use those in our communities to help educate some people who might want to get into different careers, or maybe into a career for the first time. So I think that's what, the future kind of holds, this ability to move from houses, which are great, and we're going to keep building houses and building, but then, really building communities with the leisure centers, with using our influence for employment and education as well. That's the sort of dream scenario.
Yeah, it seems like kind of its own little world, it's got that community leisure center, the everything that you need basically. Okay, interesting. We're going to go into that a little bit more in a bit, especially about your team and everything that you've got basically going on with your team, such a huge amount, and you're doing a lot for the younger generation as well. But before we do, let's go right back to the beginning. Obviously, I know you've only been at Places for People for the last couple of years. Obviously starting in 1965. What has been kind of the biggest change into working processes from 1965 to now? What has been that kind of biggest change for Places for People?
Yeah, I think, the business that is the main part of the group was founded in 1965, but we've obviously acquired and merged into lots of companies, and some of them go back 100 years, particularly here in Edinburgh where I'm at. And I guess the thing that has changed since the beginning was, initially the type of social housing we would have would be either through a church or through a charity. I think since then, the government has gotten involved and, helps people with housing. So in order for us to build new houses, they'll, give us some of the money to build the house, 10, 20%, depending, and then they'll help our customers, about half of them pay their rent. So I think, things went from, good intentions and kind of, let's get as many people and help people as we go along, to, really in the post-war environment in the UK, a real effort to provide housing for people who were struggling to get on the housing ladder. And, the UK is one of the most expensive places to buy a home in the world, because there aren't enough. So if you don't provide some type of systematic housing, there will be a lot of people who just would have nowhere to live.
It is one of those things now that I'm almost 30, I'm 28, and I'm kind of in that kind of age group where me and my friends from university were saying how we kind of are the unlucky age group really at the moment, because you had the older generation, my parents and stuff, who managed to obviously buy a house and get on the market. You've got the younger generation, which most probably there'll be something in place, but now we're in the middle where it's a lot more difficult for us at the moment. So yeah, it definitely has its challenges in the UK. Tell me, in regards to how you're moving the company forward. So you've got lots of ideas of obviously building these communities, but in regards to technology, how are you using the technological change to push you forward?
Yeah, I think there's probably a few, obvious places to mention. The first would just be customer service. Obviously, things are much easier than they used to be. Everything used to be,
Mm-hmm.
if you talk about how the company has changed, it would have been in person, or you would have gone to a local office to pay your rent or to say you had an issue. Then things moved onto the phone. Then there's a bit of web involved. Now there's apps, and then the holy grail, which we're working on now, is just gathering all the data that we have available to us about our customers
Mm-hmm.
and our homes, and using AI and at times predicting where things need to be fixed or where they need to be changed. So that will be one side of it. So sort of technology. And then I think the sort of technological advances are coming, but the magical part of that is data and analytics, which is I think every big company is working on. And then for us, the other part of that is what we're doing on sustainability. It's I'm not going to say easier, but it's clearer on new homes, so you can build them to a net zero standard,
Mm-hmm.
assuming that the government is going to one day fix the grid, and that we'll be able to get clean energy from the grid. And then you can make the rest of the changes you need to make on the house. If you make the assumption that the grid's not going to be clean, then it's just way too expensive for us to provide social housing in that scenario. So
Mm-hmm.
we are counting on the overall UK situation over the next few years to sort of allow us to handle the move from gas and from other things into electricity, and that they're going to provide us with clean electricity.
Tell me a little bit more about obviously the technology. You're saying here that you're using AI sometimes as well to predict obviously future trends and where it's going. With your team, so do you have a team of tech guys, or is it something, because obviously such a big company, I'm trying to imagine the makeup of your company. Do you have like a headquarters and a team of tech guys, or is it something you outsource? Do you outsource a lot of your staff?
No, we're not big outsourcers. So we do have one of our offices has a large amount of the tech team there,
Mm.
but we do work agile. So the I think the company has 400 offices across the UK. So if you want to go to an office, you can go to an office.
Uh,
But as far as like a big campus type office, we've got one of those in the north of England, and that's where the tech guys are. Of course, we outsource some things because some things you're not good at, or
mm.
sometimes you need help with things. But we do have I think a large, fairly good tech team.
Nice. Okay. Right. Let's talk a little bit more about your team here. So, I want to start with your spirit values. Okay, so you got your spirit values. How important are these for a company? Because, okay, in many companies, every company has to have their own values. Everyone has to have something that they're working for, the understanding what your company is driven for. But how do you make your spirit values reflect exactly what's going on, not just on the top levels, but on all levels? And how important is that?
Yeah, so I think the first thing you would do is figure out what you're trying to do as a company. So we've done that. We've done that through our Thriving Community strategy. We've launched that across all 11,000 people. Everyone sort of knows now how what they do fits into the overall strategy.
Mm-hmm.
That's step one. And so that happened, probably about 6 months ago. It took us about 6 months after I arrived to have the strategy team work on it very collaboratively with everyone. And then we launched it. And so then the company does have spirit values, which were great and were fit for purpose. But since we've changed the strategy, we've gone back out to 11,000 people and sort of said, what things do you think are the most important values in sort of us achieving this outcome that we're looking for of creating these thriving communities? And so we've, had lots of one-to-one sessions. When we have big events, we've used that as part of it, and just to gather that feedback. And really, it's just as simple as voting on sort of, do you like this one? Do you like that one?
Mm-hmm.
There's dozens and dozens of sort of threads to pull out of it. And I think the one that's resonated the most, I think, is do the right thing. And so I talk about that a lot because I think it was a company that when I encountered things and I saw the way people behaved, there was a real concern about being right with customers and and who's right. And then sometimes you'd get down to the bottom of it and you'd be like, okay, you're right, but that's not the right thing to do. So whoop to do, who cares? You need to do the right thing, which sometimes is as a business, even if something has gone wrong and it's not our fault, that doesn't mean we still shouldn't help the customer, and that we still shouldn't really give them what they were asking for. And so that was like the number one. And then we're working through some others. We'll probably end up with 5 or 6. We've had a few that really stand out, like teamwork, and some sort of form of integrity, which is to me is a foundation, not really something you have to strive for, but that's fine. And then we've gone back out and asked around about another dozen to say, give us your top thoughts on these as well. And so we'll come back, and then what we'll do is we'll put those into sort of action phrases, that just not so they're just sort of
spice them up a little
lifeless bit. Words, like put them into action. And then the way that you make that active is through people like me who have visibility throughout the company, making sure that obviously I live up to these, but also that when I see examples of them, I raise them and I focus on them and I shine a light on this is what we're looking for. And so like all sort of, I think, modern effective communicating companies that are as diverse as we are across the whole country, we use Yammer, part of the Microsoft suite, to talk to all of our staff. I will have already been in there and left 100 messages today. Okay. And so, and that is just about, when you see something really special, saying, hey, that's pretty cool. So, sometimes they can be, big things that you see, wow, that's, we've really done something special. And then sometimes it's a little thing, like yesterday, one of the caretakers posted a picture of, and he looks after a couple hundred homes and he's always there. And the community had a party for him with a cake for his birthday. And obviously very proud. He posted a picture of it. His name's Des. He's a great guy. And and so then you can go in there, comment, celebrate Des, and hold him up as an example of this is the kind of person who we really want working with us. And then actually, if you do go that extra mile, do the right thing, and really care, then actually this is how our customers treat you in return. And you have a really useful exchange. And then you do have that. When I saw that picture of him with all those customers around in that cake in someone's house, I thought, that's community. He's done it.
Yeah. Tell me a little bit more about the new blood you've got in your organization. Tell me about what you're doing to bring in the new blood, and how influential, how important is it for the future of the company, but not even just the future, for right now. How important is this new blood?
So I think I'll talk about two different types of new blood. So one type is, I was a bit of a, I don't think a chance, but I wasn't, what seemed like the most logical choice to run a giant property group, because I've never worked in property before. But there were other things about the way I did things, the way I thought, about my background, about my education, that the board felt, okay, it actually would be good to bring someone like him in here and set him in here. And, and that's the way I've approached it with the leadership team and the 1 downs and the 2 downs. In such a big company, there are going to be people who, when you come in and you've got a role like mine, you'll want to keep the people who've been there a long time, who have a lot of information, who are well respected. But at the same time, if you want to do something different, you're also going to have to bring in a different dynamic, and then try to create an atmosphere where everyone works together. And I think my type of team is about empowerment, but not just saying it. It is I do want my top team, which is 11 people now, who to really make their own decisions. I don't what am I going to go tell the the chief information officer about technology. He'll know more about that than I ever will in my life. But I do know sort of strategically the direction we want to go, and I know what our priorities are, so we can have a good conversation. But once he understands the priorities we've all agreed, it's his job to figure out how to go deliver them in the best way. And so I brought in people like, someone for technology, someone for risk, someone for the people team. And these are big hires, and they sort of complement the property experts that, one of the people on my team has been at the business for 25 years. So he knows a lot. And so, you mix those together. And then I think, just in a broader sense, I really like to promote from within. So one of the reasons this is important is, and a group as big as ours, at the entry level, you will be a good reflection of society in general. And then, like a lot of big companies, as you move up the different layers, everyone starts looking the same and has a much more similar background. And so if you promote from within, you sort of force your lower managers to really take a hard look at people, to develop them and to give them a chance. If you say to someone, who runs a big department, 80% of your promotions have to be internal, they really got to go look for it. They can't just do a posting externally and la-di-da, someone comes in. So, I think that's really important. So it doesn't bring in new blood, but it does force, especially from a D&I perspective, lots of women and lots of BAME people closer towards the top as time goes on. And then we have a huge 40-person intake every year of graduates, and that's where we really get our new blood. And they are spread, I used to work at a bank, and we would do a graduate program, and you'd kind of all go around in a little club and see things. And, but this is not like that at all. You do get together, you are on a program, but if you're a surveyor, you go work with surveyors. If you're an accountant, you go work with accountants, sort of get your career kicked off. And it's really important to bring those younger perspectives into the group, because you will miss things. I talked about experience and all that, but there's a danger with that comes with you using your intuition or your gut, because you're basing decisions based on what you know, and there are a lot of things you don't know. So you do need to bring that younger dynamic into the company, and then not just sort of play nice with them, but really get to know them. And as one of the more senior people in the company, I've met with them several times. I was in this is funny. I was in Leeds. We have a big office, and I saw on the internal social media that the graduate intake was at a bar, and so I just rolled on over there. Had a nice night, basically, I think. And I left when it got time, because they were, eventually there's a time when it's like, I wish the CEO would leave. So I went and left so they could have, finish their night. But the main reason I did it is because I wanted to go talk to them with a drink while they're relaxed, while I'm relaxed, and, break down that barrier that there's something really special about me, and that, they're not good enough or worthy to talk to me, that, and once that is sort of broken, then, when I see them around the offices, they're like, hey, and they tell me what they're working on. And it's just a much better situation.
It really creates that kind of, especially if you're hiring and giving people that promotion from within, it creates that kind of family feel where they know that they're not just going to work to go to work, they're going to work to build a life and create a career, basically, as well, doesn't it? I think it's a really amazing.
Definitely. And I think that's what I want us to be. I think a year into it, we're not there yet, but I think everyone gets the idea. So, in my last place when I was CEO, we worked very hard over a number of years, and there was finally a point when it was like, wow, this is good. I would say that at Places for People, with a beautiful social purpose, it's a nice place to work, but we're not great yet. So there's work to do.
Talking about, you saying obviously like you have one guy who's been there for 25 years, he's got lots of experience, and you've brought in some new hires, some people which have a different dynamic. Is there are we getting to a point in in business, in the world that we live in now, with the evolution of technology, are we getting to a point now where experience is less needed, but it's understanding how to work the technology, how to get people interested, how to market people using TikToks, Instagram. Is this more important now? Is this becoming more important in your opinion? Or is it important to have that the guy who's been there for 25 years or the 20, let's say 24-year-old out of university, knows how to get the likes, knows how to get people attracted to the company? What's more important now?
I'd say it depends on what you're trying to do. So, obviously, having someone who's very good at social media is very, very important to a business like ours, but also having someone who sort of, understand, our group counsel, has got a ton of experience and, really understands the laws that you need to understand
Yeah.
on a business this big, and he's not done that because he got out of school. He's done that because he's had 25 years of learning it. So
Yeah,
I
you
think
can't
it's like,
learn that on Instagram, can
you've
you?
got to have a mix of, what you need as far as young people, and also, how young people think. One of the things that people don't talk about much is that, as a CEO, I'm 53 now, and it used to be that I would have to deal with maybe one generation younger than me and one generation older than me. But now at 53, I have some people on on our board who are in their 80s, and that's a totally different generation to me. They're someone who's born in, the 40s, 1940s, compared to me. And then I have people who are, younger than my children who are working for me. So I think I probably now I'm trying to manage across 5 different generations, and that's a different challenge than people used to have in the past. And it's not like,
Is there a harder generation to manage?
no, I don't think so. I think if you understand the generation, so I think people in a role like, I'll give you an example. People in a role like mine, when I started out in business, if you were going to switch companies, that was a secret. And then, the day that you left, you'd tell them, and it'd be a big catastrophe, and everyone would be like, "Oh my God, what's happening?" Whereas now I know in the younger generation, it's quite normal for one of our graduates to say, next year I'm moving to Ireland. I always wanted to live in Dublin. Which is, fine, but that is not the way, it used to be done, because you used to pretend you were really loyal to the company forever. But nowadays, 2 years here, 2 years there, go see a different thing. I've got someone in my comms team who just moved from Southern England up to the Highlands because, her and her husband felt like it. In the past, they'd be like, how are you going to do your job? But, nowadays it's like, that's fine. We'll just do it by teams and everything will be fine. And you do need to come in the office every once in a while. So it is, it's just, I think if you as long as you don't think there's something wrong because people are doing something different, and you try to really empathize and try to understand, why are they doing that? What's this about? And then how can that benefit me? How it can benefit me is I can now have a 35-year-old who's worked at 5 different places and has a ton of different experiences across 5 different companies, and they can bring that mix of experience, like have a consultant come in into your company. Whereas in the old days, they may have been at one place and it probably was a similar type of place. So when they came over, the branding colors changed, but not much else. Whereas now people changing sectors, changing industries. It's exciting. And then you've got to balance that with the older generation who, are not set in their ways, but they have their ways of doing things. So they don't understand this. So as the CEO, you're kind of the boy in the middle, trying to sort of
tough job.
Yeah.
Tough job. Okay, last question for you. Give me a little bit about what would you like our listeners to take away from this podcast today? What would you like to give? Would you like to give them some kind of advice of how to be the best CEO? Would you like them to know a little bit more about what you're doing at Places for People, or where the future is going in this industry? What would you like to give to our listeners for a final piece?
Well, I think most people. I think we talked a lot about Places for People, and it's a wonderful company, and there should be more businesses that don't have a shareholder, that are not a charity, that make profits and then take those profits and reinvest them back in society. So that's not a Places for People thing. I can tell you, it does work. You don't need this magical shareholder to tell you what to do. You can run a good business on your own as a limited liability company and put the monies back into it and get on with it. I think as an individual, I was just talking to someone about this today, so it's top of my mind. And I'd sent them some advice, and so they were giving a presentation. And what I told them to be careful of was to not be what they thought they were supposed to be. There's no one better at being you than you. So just get up there, be yourself. For me, I'm a bit of an introvert. I'm quiet, but I'm also, a bit mischievous. So I like to, push boundaries, but not go past them. So I'll tend to have a good laugh while I'm up there, and that's what I do. I don't pretend to be Mr. Businessy Business CEO with charts and graphs, and because I don't think that's why they've got me there talking to them. And so just be the best version of yourself is what I would say. That'd be my advice for people to take.
Nice. Greg, thank you very much for speaking with us today. And I wish you and Places for People all the luck and the best in the future. It's got a very interesting future coming.
Yeah, thanks a lot, Matthew.